Hello, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm Yoon, Master's course in Dance at Busan National University. Today, as you can see on the screen, the topic is Pygmalion theory for dance education. First, its table of contents. This thesis is divided into introduction, contents, and conclusion. I'll talk about needed for research and purpose of research in the introduction. And theoretical background, Pygmalion leader behavior analysis and the necessity of Pygmalion leadership for dance education in the contents. Lastly, conclusions and discussion, limitations and suggestions in the conclusion. In dance education, the leader's application of leadership causes a significant deviation in the learning effect. Therefore, the leadership of a professor is an essential factor in dance education, which requires various experience and senses such as expression of inner emotions, emotional interaction, and delicacy of body movements. In the past time, there was a strong perception that leaders were unconditionally superior. However, today's leaders need to have Pygmalion leadership to help members achieve expectations by giving them opportunities. Recently, the Pygmalion effect has been used in education and various fields such as business and medical care. In particular, in the field of educational psychology, this method proves that teachers' expectations of students are related to the phenomenon that students' learning efficiency or results have improved. Nevertheless, research on the theoretical application of Pygmalion leadership in the field of dance is inadequate. In dance education, not only movement technique, but also psychological factors such as delicate emotional expression and interaction with colleagues are needed. Therefore, since the leadership style of a dance education leader can exceedingly influence learners, we believe a study on the applicability of Pygmalion leadership in dance education is necessary. The Pygmalion effect refers to a phenomenon in which efficiency or results improve due to the expectations or attention, and educational fields actively utilize this concept. The study conducted by Professor Robert Rosenthal of Harvard University proved the effectiveness of increasing the learning effect by instilling positive expectations of leaders toward learners. The same conclusion was made from the results of a study of students enrolled in the U.S. Head Start program. Accordingly, this study aims to explore the possibility of applying the theory of Pygmalion leadership in dance education. Next is theoretical background. I'll tell you concept of dance education. Dance is the most primitive art among the other art forms, and its essence lies in movement. Based on its essence, dance is a genre to express the beauty in movement by developing techniques and instilling our souls more than simply mimicking the movements of nature and animals. Materials and techniques are necessitated to express this ability concretely. Therefore, dance education is a holistic education that nurtures desirable human beings by learning and mastering skills using the human body as a material and harmoniously developing intellectual and emotional aspects. The general concept of dance education is that dance, being practiced in dance education, is the purpose of education, which means education should focus on developing and mastering the talents for this purpose. The goals of a leader's teaching are to improve the learner's dancing physical skills, help prevent injuries, enhance the aesthetic touch and imagination, and encourage the learner's dance skills and emotional eloquence. By examining responsive to the learner's dance experience, the factors and answers should be explored to conjecture the process through which technological changes are made and the impact on the learner's ability to acquire technical skills. Compared to other arts in general, the characteristic of dance lies in the expression of beauty with the human body. Moreover, as people dance to express their inner self, instinctive and simple movements are most suppressed. Since the educator's guidance acts as an essential factor for the wrong movements or faults of oneself and other members, the role of the educator is necessary for dance education to express beauty. As a comprehensive education that transcends arts and studies in various fields, such as learning about body movements and structures, music, arts, and synesthetic, understanding of individual and groups, and acting. Learners can discover and express themselves and arrive at the art of expression with a high degree of perfection. To understand Pygmalion leadership theory, I'll explain Pygmalion effect, Rosenthal's four-factor theory, Pygmalion leadership creation and application. Now, let's move on Pygmalion effect. The term Pygmalion effect is derived from the name of the sculptor Pygmalion in Greek mythology, who shows that if you genuinely desire and expect something, you can achieve it. Robert Rosenthal named the Pygmalion effect. Robert Rosenthal and Gunnar Jacobsen published the results of an experiment conducted at Oak Elementary School in the late 1960s in a paper in 1966 and in a book called Pygmalion in the Classroom in 1968. After performing an intelligence test on all students, Robert Rosenthal randomly selected about 20% of the students regardless of the test results, gave the risk to the teacher, and convinced the teacher that those had the highest potential for improving intellectual abilities and academic achievement. 8 months later, the same intelligence test was conducted again. As a result, the students on the list scored higher than the other students and improved significantly in school performance. These results indicate that the teacher's expectation and encouragement for the students on the list were essential factors. In the end, the difference was not in the students' intelligence, but the expectation effect of teacher. Individuals depend on the expectations of people around them, such as parents, teachers, and colleagues. When people have specific expectations for a person in an organization, he or she tends to act in a direction consistent with those expectations. However, while such an expectation alone does not achieve any result, we perform to feel what is expected instead. Through these prior studies, the optimistic expectation delivered by the leader stimulates the learner and changes in the positive direction to produce outstanding learning results. Rosenthal developed and continuously modified Pygmalion leader behaviors, composed of 4 factors, including the following. First one is climate. Teachers seem to create a warm social emotional atmosphere for students with high expectations. This warmth seems to communicate with the students at least in part through nonverbal allusions. Second is feedback. Teachers tend to give more informative and favorable feedback, verbally and non-verbally, to students with high expectations regarding their achievements. Third is input. Teachers seem to teach more challenging tasks to students with high expectations. Last one is output. Teachers seem to provide more opportunities for answers like responses to students with high expectations. According to Eden's research, Pygmalion leader style is defined as a leader behavior that motivates members and influence their active efforts through positive expectations. Also, from a pedagogical point of view, a Pygmalion educator delivers positive expectations to the learner and delights the learner's excellence. As such, the core meaning of the Pygmalion effect is positive expectations. Accordingly, this paper studies the Pygmalion leadership is defined as the leader behavior analyzed based on the Pygmalion leader behaviors composed of Rosenthal's 4-factor theory. Now, let's move on to Pygmalion leader behavior analysis. First, climate refers to tendency of the educator to communicate partially with the learner, mainly through the warmth and gaze exchange, a gentle tone of voice, and body gestures which are conveyed non-verbally. Partial communication with the learner, mainly through non-verbal suggestion, is defined as treating members more warmly and humanly. In other words, primate mainly includes non-verbal communication in addition to verbal factors, such as using polite titles to learners, explaining and guiding them gently and warmly, and waiting for tasks. This term generally refers to behaviors related to the positive emotions experienced by the learner. Second is feedback. Feedback states that educators tend to implement more informative and favorable feedback regarding achievement to learners with positive expectations. It is defined as a task in which the educator appropriately responds to the learner's learning behavior and informs the individual of the behavioral progress or the reaction results. In other words, feedback refers to the learner's verbal and nonverbal improvement behavior and includes various responses to the learner, such as frequent and specific praise, encouragement, and collection of tasks. Third, input refers to the amount of information given to the learner, and the educator refers to more complex tasks for learners with high expectations. It's defined as giving more important information or tasks to learners by teaching them more and more challenging tasks. In other words, input refers to providing high-quality information in more diverse ways, giving significant or challenging tasks and teaching new things to learners. Lastly, output refers to giving members of high expectation more frequent and extended opportunities to respond. It's defined as providing positive opportunities for recognition by including and leading the learners to demonstrate their learning ability and transferring authority to members. The response time of the educator to learners' questions is also increased to give more opportunities related to the learner's achievement and show the ability. Educators give more opportunities to voice their opinions by asking questions or providing hints and related information materials to elicit accurate answers. As a result of previous studies, we found that Pygmalion leadership is necessary and appropriate for the application, especially in dance education, where leadership is important. Therefore, we believe that it's necessary to apply Pygmalion leadership in the role of a dancer to have expectations, give opportunities, and help them achieve in the age of knowledge service. The recent trend of dance education maintains a horizontal relationship with students rather than relying on absolute authority or traditional education, leading to greater respect from students and stimulating the desire and passion for volunteering learning. As such, expectations for dance education, educators are not only teaching skills but also understanding and empathizing with participants. In other words, it's necessary to understand the object that can be recognized as the material of expression. As a result of analyzing the 4 Pygmalion leader behaviors for dance education and exploring their applicability, the positive suggestion of the educator helps to form a good learning emotion and atmosphere for the learners. In addition, reliable communication between learners and leaders plays an integral part in dance education, and mutual communication can be facilitated. Therefore, mutual sympathy helps express movements through better spatial awareness. In addition, the behavior of the educator who mainly teaches dance and the feedback with the students facilitates high-quality expression, granting continuity to reach the goal by inducing satisfaction and interest in the class. In particular, the feedback given during practice reduces the learner's unnecessary actions for trial and error and suggests a direction for future improvement. Many studies have been conducted on how feedback affects learners and whether there's a limit to increase the learning effect. Most of these studies reveal that feedback in the teaching learning process dramatically affects learning and academic achievement. In addition, learners can prevent injuries during practice by clearly communicating and organizing their learning priorities. Educators provide information and education on training or practice methods in more specific and diverse ways to motivate the learners to set goals and fulfill more diverse efforts to achieve goals. As a result of previous studies, we found that Pygmalion leadership is necessary and appropriate for the application, especially in dance education, where leadership is crucial. Therefore, we believe that it's necessary to apply Pygmalion leadership in the role of a dancer to have expectations, give opportunities, and help them achieve in the age of knowledge service. This study was conducted to explore the applicability of the Pygmalion leadership theory for dance education. Dance education aims to prioritize improving the learner's dance skills and preventing injuries through delicate education while appreciating the learner's learning capability, body structure, and learning intention. Therefore, the educator's leadership theory is a vital factor in dance education. Dance educators are required to form leadership virtues that give opportunities and help them achieve by showing and conveying expectations to the learners based on the theory of the Pygmalion effect. It's necessary to seek specific research methods and various approaches in the future regarding the Pygmalion theory application in dance education. By developing and analyzing Pygmalion leadership behavior as four factors, Rosenthal was able to research the relationship between educators and learners' academic emotion and task continuity and class satisfaction in the field of pedagogy beyond psychology. Therefore, the necessity of applying Pygmalion leadership theory in dance education is as follows. First, Rosenthal's Pygmalion leadership theory analyzed the leadership of a dance leader more accurately by introducing four factors: climate, feedback, input, and output. Second, leadership theory is constantly changing with the flow of the time and the approaches of researchers. By analyzing and studying dance education through Rosenthal's four-factor theory on Pygmalion leadership, we can identify the characteristics of dance leaders more accurately and guide more effective dance education in the future. Third, if we apply Pygmalion leadership theory to observe the leader's language, behavior, gestures, and record the educational process in the dance education process, we can provide the connection and objectivity of dance education. In addition, if the analysis is done through the four-factor theory of leadership behavior, it can be helpful to the dance education process as it's possible to accurately know the learning efficiency of the learner according to the leadership style. This paper analyzed and explored by using Pygmalion leader behavior with Rosenthal's four-factor theory. Since analysis and research will conducted based on literature rather than empirical research, so there may be partial limitations in its application in actual dance education. Thank you for listening my presentation.